Well, hello everyone. Nini here, and this is my very first video. I want to cover the SUMMERWELLS case and add along the way a little of my own experiences, with CPS, foster to adopt, why they remove a child from a home or a parent. And I'm just going to kind of go over some some things like that. I'm not going to be on camera right now. I'm still kind of learning how all of this works, but I did want to talk about, there's so much going on with this case, and there's so many players, it seems, and there's just been so many it's turned into kind of a circus. And the the the, the main reason that we're all here, I feel, is kind of getting lost in all the confusion and the chaos. And the reason we're here is for Summer Moon Utah Wells. And today's Saturday. Yesterday the 15th marked 10 months since she's been missing. And nobody seems to really be any closer. There's been a lot of information that has come out and that has been shared from different creators, and there's been many creators that I've followed and watched, and everybody kind of has their own unique way of covering this case. And I want to give a shout out to some of the creators that I really like and feel has handled this case really well. And one of those being the interview room, um, Unmasked. In the beginnings, covered this and did some interviews. Molly Golightly, um, J for Justice, Justice for All. There's way too many you know, to mention right now. But what I wanted to do is get past all the chaos, get past all the um, the things that have taken place over the last 10 months, and fundraisers and billboards and you know just craziness. There is a couple of creators that I that really interest me in their way of looking at. One of them is, Reverend Donna Serafina. I get a really strong feeling when she does her readings, or listening to her readings on Summer Wells, and the way that Enchanted Life Path can find those little clues embedded in pictures and videos and things like that. Um, but what I wanted to talk about today is, the fact that it's been going around, that Candace, lost her parental rights, or she signed over her parental rights. However it's being worded, but actually the proper way to word that would be her rights were terminated. Her parental rights were terminated. She had no choice in that um, at this point. Now, however, her and Dawn had a choice from the start of this case, from the start of the CPS case, I should say, and the removal of the boys. They did have a choice. There were certain things that they were given, that they needed to follow, that they needed to complete in order to get the boys back. And there, in their case, I'm sure there were many. However, some of the okay, let me just add, I am a licensed foster parent, and I have adopted a granddaughter through the CPS process. So I am familiar with um, the court process when a child is removed from their home. Now, I do not know if each state has their own guidelines. I think that it's a federal kind of thing that in the end has to be followed, but I can only speak for California. And how that process goes, and why a child would be removed from their home, what the process is, and so on and so forth. And some of those things, start off with somebody making a phone call, or there being a report made to CPS to visit the home. And some of the reasons that, in my opinion, this is all in my opinion, that they may have visited their home was, there were previous police reports and previous visits from, law enforcement to the home for, DV and things like that. And, so the first thing is, it's like there's a call made, there's a report made, and then there's a visit. And I know that it's been said that Candace and Dawn avoided the CPS visits. That kind of baffles me because, that can maybe happen once, maybe twice, depending on what the report was, what was said in the report, and how urgent that visit should or could have been. But if there is a child in imminent danger and a CPS agent or staff goes to visit a home for the first time and doesn't get an answer, they can call if it has been stated that the child is in imminent danger. Then the CPS person would then call law enforcement to be escorted at the residence, and therefore a welfare check could be made. There would need to be eyes on the child or children at that time. So I'm a little baffled as to how they were able to get away with not answering the door and the things that it's been said that they did to avoid the CPS visit. Because what happens is, in a dependency court proceedings, the first thing that happens is the report, the visit, then the child is removed from the home. And then a petition has to be filed within 48 hours with the courts, within 48 hours of the child being taken into state's custody. Okay, and then the next thing that happens is a detention hearing, and that occurs as soon as possible after the petition has been filed. So the petition has to be filed within 48 hours. Then there's a detention hearing scheduled, and that has to occur as soon as possible after the petition is filed. And the petition must be on either the same day or the next court day. Okay, then from there, if the judge says that CPS had a right to remove the child or children, then there's a jurisdiction hearing. And if the child is detained, this hearing occurs within 15 days of the court's order of detaining the child. Okay, so you have visit, child removed, petition filed with the court, detention hearing saying yes, we had a right and cause to remove the child. Then within 15 days, there's another hearing that, do we still need to keep the children in custody? And then within 10 days after that, so it's a series of court hearings. It's a process that goes over a certain length of time. And a lot of times it's like 12 to 18 months. And so from the very beginning, usually like at the detention hearing, the parents are given a plan. Like they're given a list of things that they need to do if they want their children reunified with them. So, after that jurisdiction hearing, then there's a disposition hearing within the next 10 days. And if the child is detained, this hearing occurs within 10 days of the jurisdiction hearing. Okay, and then you go on for up to 6 months, and the parents would be checking in. Some of the things that they would be required to do would be if there's a drug or alcohol dependency, they would be required to test however often the court has put for them to do. A lot of times it's weekly, sometimes it can be every couple days. It just all depends. So some of the things that a parent who has a drug dependency or alcohol dependency would have to probably enter into a drug and alcohol rehab, usually a 90-day program, at least in my opinion, and in my state, and in my circumstance of me having my granddaughter, these were the things that were put in place for my daughter. So it was drug and alcohol detox, 90 days. That had to be accomplished and followed. And then besides that, there were weekly visits set up in the family room at CPS building. And the drug test. So if you're waiting on getting into rehab, then you have weekly visits, supervised visits in their office. And in order to be able to visit the child, there was a drug test that needed to be done. And if the drug test came back positive, then there was no visit. If it came back negative, then there was a visit allowed. The child is usually already there at the designated time. The parent comes in, signs in, does their drug test, and then whatever determines the results is whether or not the parent gets to visit with the child. And so in my case, my visit was weekly. My granddaughter did not come immediately into my care. And there's, it's crazy reasons due to my daughter. So in my case, what I had to do is I had to go through the foster and kinship process. So I had to become a licensed foster mother. I'm single, I'm a grandmother. Not something that I thought that I'd be doing in this place in my life. But so my visits were scheduled first. So I had the first hour, and then my daughter had the second hour. And if my daughter didn't show up, then I was able to stay the 2 hours, which was every week. So I won't, I don't want to go into detail of exact things in our case, but I'm just kind of going over, the gist of everything. So during that next 6 months, so in the Wells case, it would have been, if you count the months, it's kind of the same schedule. Then a 6-month review hearing is held. And that occurs within 6 months of the date of the disposition hearing. So the disposition hearing was the last hearing we talked about, which is the 4th hearing. Then 6 months later, there's the 6-month review. Okay, so at the 6-month review, the parents have a right to, be to give whatever they've accomplished, whatever they've completed in their plan for reunification with the child, and um, if there hasn't been any progress, then the court makes other determinations at that 6-month review. So once that 6-month review happens, shortly after that, there's a permanency hearing. And so if the parents have not followed, now if they've made some progress and if they've shown that they're making progress, the judge takes all of that into consideration. But if there's been no progress, or no visits, or no drug tests, or no rehab, or sometimes they need to get a job. In the Wells case, they needed to fix up their home so that it was safe for children to be there, so that each child had a bed, and on and on. And we all know that in their case, there were very few things that they accomplished or completed in that 6-month period of time. So, so then there's a permanency hearing, okay, and that occurs within 12 months of the date the child entered foster care, okay? So in most cases, this is 12 months from the jurisdiction hearing. So again, it's like 12 to 18-month process that the parents have, and they're given all the resources. They're given, the social workers. They're given the drug and alcohol rehab workers. They're given all the tools to be successful in this reunification plan. And it's up to them if they want to be successful and if they want to actually, complete everything. So, okay, so then the permanency hearing is. And so what the courts want to do is they don't want to keep kids in foster care forever. Okay. They want to reunify them with the parents, or start a permanency plan, which would lead to adoption. And so that's the goal. That's the goal from the start, is reunification number one. And if that doesn't happen, then it's permanency going towards adoption. And usually, now I'm speaking for my state only, and in my opinion and in my legal paperwork, that the courts prefer to see the children go with a family member, and that's kind of the goal, not to remove them completely from a family and adopt them out to someone that no one is going to know where that child is. And that's a very good possibility if there is not a family member who takes the children in, or who goes through the licensing process. The children go to be adopted, their names are changed, and the federal government is even considering, there's been talk about changing a child's social security number. Right now, the child's social security number stays the same, but their name changes. And so sometimes that privacy thing is really important, because maybe the child came from a very, very horrific situation at home and are still in danger, even into the permanency and the adoption process. And so a child's name changes, which we saw in the Orrin and Orson West, the West boys. Their first names were even changed. So I'm getting a little off track here. So they're talking. There's I think some sort of law trying to be passed that a child's social security number would also change, because a parent could still have that child's social security number and just not have the name. And you could probably track down a child through that number. So anyway, so okay, so then the permanency hearing, comes up, and if the foster family where the child has been placed, if that foster family is in a program foster to adopt, if they're willing to adopt, then the children or child would stay with that family and be adopted by that foster family. If that family is not, if that family is strictly a foster family, then the children would go to another home who is willing to adopt. Um, but it is always what's in the best interest of the child. Okay, so then after the permanency hearing, and let's say parents don't do anything, this is where we're at, a little over 6-month period from the detention hearing, from the child being removed. And so if the parents have done nothing in their reunification process, okay, then it goes to what's called a 2-6 hearing. It's .26. It's part of a series of numbers for court records hearing, but we call it the 2-6 hearing, and that's the can't even talk. The wait, I lost my place. Implementation hearing. And so that must be held within 120 days of the permanency hearing if reunification services have terminated. Okay, so at the 6-month mark, that kind of tells the judge whether, okay, are these parents trying? Have they not done anything? And the judge is who makes that determination according to what they've completed or not. So then that's when it goes to the 2-6 hearing, which is, on their way to permanency, meaning being adopted, having a permanent home, a permanent family other than their birth family. So, and that has to be held 120 days within the permanency hearing. Okay, so we got at 6 months, all right? Then we got 4 months after that is the 2-6 hearing. And then in my case, I, of course, was going to be adopting my granddaughter if she was not going to be placed back with her mother. And so I already knew that along the way, because so what happens is the parents are given an attorney, family law. So there's been talk, the parents have lawyered up. Well, you automatically, when your child is removed and they start, in the court system, in the foster care system, you are the parent is assigned an attorney, the child or children is assigned an attorney, and I don't know, but I guess each child could have their own attorney. I don't know for sure, but at least one attorney for the children. The parents get an attorney. There's an attorney that represents the child services. Okay. And at about the just before usually at the disposition hearing, the foster family can start attending the hearings. So I started getting, the notices of the court hearings, and that I was expected to be there. So then I started going to the hearings right about the 6-month mark. Mom never went to any of the hearings. I'm sorry, she went to one hearing, and actually that was the 6-month. No, that was the 2-6 hearing. And she's also was given court documents of all the steps and all the hearings. She just didn't attend them. So she went to that one hearing, and when the judge, was talking about permanency, and this this is, where we're headed, and this is so, um, your parental rights will be terminated. So at that 2-6 hearing, that's when they decide that the parental rights are terminated or not. And the thing is at that 6-month review, the judge kind of already knows where it's headed. So that 4 months later at the 2-6 hearing is when the termination of rights are granted. And the parent, I think from there, has 30 days to contest that that verdict and to try and fight it, I guess. But again, if they have not shown anything that says that they have been working towards this reunification plan, the judge is going to go on what the judge has, what the judge sees, whether or not the parents are showing up, whether or not the parents are visiting the child, whether or not any of this. Okay. I think I forgot, I didn't add in there. So I had to go through the foster licensing program. Okay. I had to become a foster mother, a licensed foster care home. And so my granddaughter was removed in the month of August. Okay. And I immediately started all the requirements, all the background checks, all the character references. I had to get notes from my doctor saying what kind of medication I'm on and why I'm on it. Like you give up all your privacy, and everything about you is known to them. Okay. DMV printouts and like the whole 9 yards. Now again, this is in California, which, the West boys were in California. And I'm really disappointed either those two people had to have played like a really good acting part through that getting their foster license, and then through the adoption process and being able to get those kids and adopt them. Like they had to have been really good actors, or the CPS system in that county was not up to par. And I think we all kind of know which one of those, it's probably some of both. I can say the county in which my daughter was removed from and the county in which I live was 2 different counties. So I dealt with the county where she was removed from. So I had to drive a distance each week to go visit her. And so she was removed in the month of August. And I completed all of my things by in December and went through all the classes and everything. And she was placed with me the beginning of December. And so again, all these court hearings are taking place during this whole time. And then at the 2-6 hearing, after that, I started getting visits from the adoption specialist. Okay. And then, so I had a weekly visit from a social worker every week from the day my granddaughter came into my home. I had a social worker come visit every single week, talked to my granddaughter every single week privately, and me, and then us together every single week. They never missed a visit, and they were driving a distance to come to my home. Then the adoption specialist started coming, and she was making weekly visits. So I had an adoption specialist every week and a CPS social worker every week. So I had 2 visits, 2 days a week. I had in my home and everybody knowing everything about me. And then after that 2-6 hearing, then a few months after that, then there's a permanency hearing to say that yes, the parental rights have been revoked, the child is in your care, you are on your way to adopting, and the adoption will become final, at some point. And then once you adopt, 6 months after that, there's another hearing where there's a follow up with the judge and the courts to check on that adoptive parent and the child to make sure that everything is good. And then, once that happens, it's you're kind of done with all the courts and all the visits and everything. But so I just kind of wanted to let people know, like, it's a long process. Like, your parental rights don't get terminated right away. And you have that parent has a lot of resources to use. Like, they had a bed 3 different times in a facility for my daughter, and she refused it every time. And there was a lot of chances that she was given to kind of get her stuff together, right? And so I wanted to kind of just go over. I'm not going to make this too much longer. It's my very first live. I hope you guys are. Oh, I've got 2 people watching. Okay, I don't have my camera on. I don't know how to put one of those circles with my picture. I will figure that out. I promise. If I continue to do videos, which I really want to. I want to keep in this doing this information with about CPS and about child abuse and neglect and so on. And so there's some things that determine like what child abuse and neglect is. And there's there's all different kinds. There's emotional, SA kind, various different ones, right? And so by the federal law, um, uh, child abuse and neglect is defined. I don't know if this would be kind of boring for me to read, but there's a minimum set of acts or behaviors that define. I guess I'm supposed to say CA and neglect. And so there's a Federal Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act. Okay, it's the CAPTA, and as amended by the Keeping Children and Families Safe Act of 2003, defines child abuse and neglect as, at minimum, any recent act or failure to act on the part of a parent or caretaker which results in death, serious physical or emotional harm, sexual SA or exploitation, or an act or failure to act which presents an imminent risk of serious harm. Okay, so some of the major types of abuse within the standards, set by the Federal Child Abuse Prevention Act, and each state is responsible for providing its own definitions of child A and neglect, and most states recognize 4 major types of maltreatment: neglect, physical abuse, SA, and emotional abuse. Okay, and although any of the forms of child maltreatment may be found separately, they often occur in combination. We all kind of know that. We've seen that so many times. And some of the examples provided below are for general informational purposes only. Not all states' definitions will include all the examples listed below, and individual states' definitions may cover additional situations not mentioned here. Again, I'm in California. I'm reading California law. So neglect is failure to provide for a child's basic needs. Okay, neglect may be physical, failure to provide necessary food or shelter, or lack of appropriate supervision. Medical, failure to provide necessary medical or mental health treatment. Educational abuse, failure to educate a child or attend special education needs. And emotional, uh, inattention to a child's emotional needs, failure to provide psychological care, or permitting the child to use alcohol or other drugs. Okay, these situations do not always mean a child is neglected. Sometimes cultures, values, the standards of care in the community, and poverty may be contributing factors indicating the family is in need of information. I think it's common sense that we all know what is abuse, like what we want done for us or to us, and what we don't want done for us or to us, right? And so when a family fails to use information and resources, and the child's health and safety are at risk, the child welfare intervention may be required. And so if it's those things that their reunification plan falls in, and they like fixing up the house, making sure there's a refrigerator and a stove and all those basic needs. There's and I'm not going to go over all of this. I will do another live and go over even more of these things. But like the physical abuse is physical injury ranging from minor bruises to severe fractures or death as a result of punching, beating, kicking, biting, shaking, throwing, stabbing, choking, hitting with a hand, stick, strap, or other object, burning or otherwise harming a child. Such injury is considered abuse regardless of whether the caretaker intended to hurt the child. Okay, so if you're not supervising a child and those things happen, that's abuse. And I want to apologize right now. I did not um, put trigger warning or mention trigger warning, and I apologize. I'm learning. Um, I hope this video gets to stay up. I think it can be very educational for many of us. Um, and then there's SA, and we all know what SA. I mean, I'm not going to read all of that. It's pretty graphic, but we all know what kind of things that could be, right? Um, and then there's emotional abuse, and is a pattern of behavior that impairs a child's emotional development or sense of self-worth. We know that's so important to kids. Like, they need to know that they're worthy, that they are worth have a place, and that they are valued. Um, and this may include constant criticism, threats, or rejection, as well as withholding love, support, or guidance. Emotional abuse is often difficult to prove, and therefore CPS may not be able to intervene without evidence of harm to the child. Emotional abuse is almost always present when other forms are identified. So, of course, if you're harming a child physically, SA, obviously there's going to be emotional abuse there, as well. So I'm going to stop there. I will go over, some more things in another live, but I just wanted to, Summer's been gone 10 months. I mean, it's time for her to come home. I've been so frustrated and so angry and feeling so helpless in this case that, I mean, it's just, I wish it would come to an end. I wish it would come to an end. I wish we'd find her. I wish her parents would show let us know that those kids had value, like they meant something to them. And I don't think we're ever going to see that from Candace or Dawn. I don't think we're ever going to see that, or Grandis, and it's so sad. And the part of the kinship care, which basically means a relative would adopt a child or foster a child within the family. I think unless Dawn and Candace are in prison for a very, very long time, I honestly don't think it would be a good idea for any family member. I could be wrong. For any family member to take those boys, because Candace and Dawn could possibly still have access to them if that were the case. And I think that would be more harmful. I'm not saying that a family member wouldn't love the kids and take care of the kids. I know Dawn has stepsisters, and Mary would probably love those kids and take care of them. But if Dawn or Candace isn't put away for a long time, I feel like they would make that person's life hell if they were raising their children. And so I've thought about that. It's like, yeah, there really isn't any family members that the boys know that they've been around or been a part of their lives. So in my opinion, all of this is in my opinion, they would really be better off being adopted out to hopefully a good family. I'm hoping that Tennessee CPS or Children's Services, their adoption assistants, and I'm praying that those boys where they are is a good situation, and that those boys where they are thriving and doing well, and are getting all the help that they need and counseling that they need. And so I just really hope for that. And I want to end this live with a prayer. I'd like to pray for Summer and her brothers. And I'd like to pray to God. God, please put your oh so loving and protecting arms around those boys. I pray that they are with a family or families that love them, that are showing them care. I hope they're thriving. I pray that you would guide them, and that you would show them that there is love, and that the way that they were treated was not love. And I pray that emotionally they will have the help that they need going forward and growing up. And it's so sad. It's just such a sad situation. And I pray that you would comfort them, and that you would guide them, God. And I pray that you would bring Summer home, that you would put it on someone's heart to confess, or to say something, to bring information forward. God, I pray that you would put it on someone's heart, and that you would make their heart so heavy that they couldn't stand it anymore, and that they would bring information forward, and that we would find Summer, and that we would bring her home. Now, when we say bring her home, put her to rest. God, you know what we need, and you know what she needs. And I pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen. And I'm going to end this live. And I hope that I will get better at videos, and I hope that that this was helpful to someone or informational, and I hope the sound came through. And I just wish you all a really good day. Okay, we'll see you soon. Nini signing off here. Bye.